The untold story of Egypt's greatest excavations, a journey through time. Imagine standing in the scorching Egyptian desert, the sun beating down on ancient ruins buried beneath the sands for thousands of years. Now picture a time when these ruins were first uncovered, when archaeologists risked everything to reveal the secrets of the pharaohs. This is the story of 1 century of excavation in the land of the pharaohs. Welcome to this epic journey into one of the most fascinating books ever written about Egyptology, A Century of Excavation in the Land of the Pharaohs by James Bakey. This is not just a book, it's a time machine, taking us back to an era of thrilling discoveries, lost tombs, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge. And today, we begin where every great story starts, the introduction and the life of the man who brought this history to light. Who was James Bakey, the man behind the book? Before we dive into the heart of Egypt's greatest excavations, we need to understand the man who told their story. James Bakey, 1866 to 1931, was not your typical archaeologist. In fact, he wasn't an archaeologist at all. He was a Scottish clergyman who had an undying passion for ancient Egypt. Imagine a priest deep in Scotland writing books about the blazing deserts of Africa and the forgotten temples of the pharaohs. Bakey was fascinated by the incredible discoveries being made in Egypt at the time, by legendary figures like Flinders Petrie, Howard Carter, and Auguste Mariette. But while these men were digging, Bakey was writing, making their discoveries understandable for the world. His mission? To bring the past to life for ordinary people who might never set foot in Egypt, but were eager to know its secrets. Bakey's books, including The Story of the Pharaohs, 1908, and Egypt in the Past and Present, 1927, were not just academic texts. They were stories, vivid, exciting, and full of wonder. His most famous work, A Century of Excavation in the Land of the Pharaohs, tells the thrilling tale of how explorers unearthed Egypt's lost history over the course of 100 years. Why this book matters. Now, you might be wondering, why should I care about a book written nearly 100 years ago? Here's why. This book captures a time when archaeology was like an adventure movie, filled with danger, mystery, and even treasure. Think about it. The tomb of Tutankhamun was discovered in 1922, just a few years before Bakey published this book. He was documenting history as it was being made. But more than that, this book is about the human obsession with the past. It's about how entire civilizations were lost and then brought back to life by people who refused to let time erase them. And that's exactly what we'll be doing here. We'll take each chapter and retell it in a way that makes you feel like you're right there, standing in the tombs, feeling the dust of ancient history in your hands, witnessing the moment lost secrets are revealed. What's next? In our next episode, we'll dive straight into Chapter 1, where we begin this breathtaking journey of rediscovery. So if you're ready to walk in the footsteps of the world's greatest archaeologists, uncover ancient mysteries, and experience the thrill of discovery, stay tuned, because the land of the pharaohs is calling. Chapter 1, The Awakening of Egypt's Lost World. Close your eyes and picture this. The year is 1798. The sun rises over the golden sands of Egypt, casting long shadows over ancient ruins that have stood, silent and forgotten, for thousands of years. The wind whispers through the crumbling temples, carrying the echoes of a civilization that once ruled the world. Egypt, once the land of mighty pharaohs, towering pyramids, and bustling cities, has become a mere shadow of its former self. Its history lies buried beneath layers of sand, its monuments standing like ghosts of a glorious past. The world has moved on, leaving Egypt's secrets locked away. Until now, this is the moment when history begins to wake up. And it all starts with one man, Napoleon Bonaparte. The arrival of Napoleon, a man with a vision. It's a scorching day in July 1798 when French ships appear on the Egyptian horizon. The sound of crashing waves blends with the war cries of French soldiers as they storm the land. Napoleon, the ambitious and power-hungry general, has arrived, not just to conquer, but to unravel the mysteries of Egypt. Napoleon isn't like other military leaders. He doesn't just see Egypt as a battlefield. He sees it as a treasure trove of lost knowledge. He believes that by understanding the secrets of the ancient Egyptians, he can elevate France's greatness. And so, along with his army, he brings an army of a different kind, 167 of the greatest scientists, engineers, artists, and scholars of France. Historians, architects, mathematicians, linguists, all of them eager to unlock the past. This moment, right here, will change the world forever. A land frozen in time. The French scholars step onto the burning sands of Egypt, their eyes filled with wonder. What they see is both awe-inspiring and heartbreaking. The pyramids, those towering stone giants, stand untouched, watching over the land like eternal guardians. The temples of Luxor and Karnak stretch towards the heavens, their columns covered in strange symbols no one can read. Statues of forgotten kings lie broken, half buried in the sand, their faces worn away by time. The scholars can feel it. Egypt is alive but asleep, and they are here to wake it up. With notebooks in hand and determination in their hearts, they begin to explore. They sketch, they measure, they document. Every carving, every broken statue, every ruin, they record it all, knowing that they are the first outsiders in centuries to truly look at Egypt with curiosity instead of conquest. But then, something happens. Something that no one could have expected. The discovery that changed everything. It's the summer of 1799, and French soldiers are digging near the city of Rosetta, a small town on the Nile Delta. They're not searching for treasure, they're simply trying to build a fort. But as one soldier strikes his shovel into the earth, he hears a clunk, a stone, a black, polished slab covered in mysterious inscriptions. Little do they know, they've just found the Rosetta Stone, the key that will unlock the lost language of the Pharaohs. The scholars rush to the site, their hands shaking as they wipe the dirt from the stone. They see 3 different scripts carved into its surface. Greek, a language they can read. Demotic, the common language of ancient Egypt. Hieroglyphics, the sacred, forgotten script of the pharaohs. For centuries, no one has been able to read hieroglyphics. The voices of the ancient Egyptians have been silenced. But now there is hope. This moment marks the beginning of Egyptology, the study of ancient Egypt. The door to the past has been cracked open, and the world will never be the same again. A new era begins. As Napoleon and his scholars continue their work, the dream of resurrecting Egypt's history spreads. Books will be written. Expeditions will be launched. The world will fall in love with the mysteries of the pharaohs. But Egypt is not done revealing its secrets. This is just the beginning. Stay tuned for Chapter 2, where we dive deeper into the race to decipher the Rosetta Stone and the battle to understand the lost language of the pharaohs. That's Chapter 1. Chapter 2. Cracking the Code of the Pharaohs. Imagine holding a book in your hands, but it's written in a language no one has spoken for over 1,000 years. A language of kings, priests, and gods. A language that once controlled an empire, but is now nothing more than a mystery. How do you bring that language back to life? This was the challenge facing the world after the discovery of the Rosetta Stone. The stone had 3 different scripts, Greek, Demotic, and hieroglyphics, but no one could read the most important one, the language of the pharaohs. And so began the greatest linguistic puzzle in history, a puzzle that would take over 20 years to solve. The struggle to understand the Rosetta Stone. After its discovery in 1799, the Rosetta Stone became the most precious artifact in Egypt. Napoleon's scholars made detailed copies of it, sending them back to France. But before they could study it further, history took a different turn. In 1801, after years of war, the British defeated the French in Egypt. As part of their victory, they seized the Rosetta Stone and took it to London, where it was placed in the British Museum. It's still there today. But the stone itself wasn't enough. The real challenge was decoding it. At first, many scholars attempted to translate it, but they all failed. Some believed hieroglyphs were just decorative symbols, representing ideas rather than a real language. Others thought they were some form of ancient magic, but one man would change everything. The genius who solved the mystery, Jean-François Champollion. Enter Jean-François Champollion, a French linguistic prodigy. From childhood, he had an obsession with ancient languages. By the time he was 16, he had already mastered Latin, Greek, Hebrew, Arabic, Coptic, and several other languages. But for him, nothing was more fascinating than Egypt. Champollion believed something no one else did. Hieroglyphs were not just pictures. They were a real language, with sounds and grammar, just like any other. For years, he studied the Rosetta Stone, comparing the Greek text, which he could read, with the hieroglyphs. Slowly, he began to recognize patterns, but he still needed the key breakthrough, the moment when everything would make sense. That moment finally came in 1822. Champollion discovered that some hieroglyphs represented sounds, just like letters in the alphabet. He compared them to Coptic, the last surviving descendant of the ancient Egyptian language, and everything started falling into place. And then, in a moment of pure genius, he translated the name of Pharaoh Ramses from a temple inscription. It worked. He had cracked the code. The moment he realized what he had done, he reportedly ran into his brother's office, shouted, "Je tiens l'affaire! I have it!" and then collapsed unconscious from the shock. The world changes forever. Champollion's breakthrough was one of the greatest intellectual achievements in history. For the first time in 1,400 years, the world could read the words of the ancient Egyptians. The voices of the pharaohs had returned. Suddenly, the walls of temples and tombs were no longer just mysterious symbols. They were stories, histories, prayers, laws, names of kings and queens who had long been forgotten. The golden age of Egyptology had begun. Scholars raced to temples and pyramids across Egypt, deciphering texts, understanding rituals, and bringing back the lost world of the Nile. Thanks to Champollion, ancient Egypt was no longer a land of silence. It was alive again. What happens next? But this was only the beginning. The more scholars learned, the more questions arose. What else was hidden in the sands? What great treasures had yet to be uncovered? And one discovery in particular would shake the world like nothing before. Stay tuned for Chapter 3, where we uncover the greatest treasure hunt in history, the search for the lost tombs of Egypt.